What's up, team? So for anyone that's never taken a Kinstretch class before, I want to offer a little sample of one here today. Before we get started, there's a couple things that I want to talk about. The first thing is a concept called irradiation. This is something that we utilize throughout a Kinstretch class. And essentially it's just a fancy way of saying create isometric force and internal tension. So if Krista's standing here with no irradiation in her body and I went to push her, she'd be kind of like a wet noodle. Now if I say, Krista, create irradiation, internal tension, and now if I were to go to push her, she'd be like a statue. So she's creating isometric force, creating tension, and kind of becoming like a statue. Now as far as the levels of irradiation, we can irradiate from 1% all the way to 100%. When we're doing it throughout a Kinstretch class, it really depends on the movement and your own capacity. For today, just go lower intensity and work with whatever levels you feel comfortable with. Maybe that's 20%, maybe that's 30%. If you're new to this, start off slow. The other thing that I want to talk about is pain. At no point through any of the movements today do I want you to experience any kind of pain. So if you go into any kind of range of motion that creates pain, I want you to back out of it to get out of that painful area, and we only work in those pain-free ranges, okay? The first concept that we're going to introduce is controlled articular rotations. I talk about this quite often. We're going to pinpoint one joint, and we're going to work it through its greatest range of motion at every joint position, and we're going to add a rotational element to it. So when we're doing this, we don't want to compensate through any other part of the body. So if we're doing shoulder cars, I want the movement to happen just at the shoulders, not compensated by twisting your torso or moving around anywhere else. So that's what we're going to start off with, is shoulder cars. So we're going to get into a standing posture. We're going to take a breath in and pack those abs down and create irradiation to about 20 or 30%. I want you to keep your arms straight the whole time. Here, what we're going to do is just focusing on the shoulders, you're going to rotate out into what is called external rotation. From here, I want you to squeeze your arms in towards your midline. This is called adduction, and come up into shoulder flexion as high as you can without compensating at the scapula or the low back. From here, I want you to internally rotate those shoulders as you reach back as far as you can. Keep squeezing out more internal rotation, coming in towards the side of your leg. You'll notice your pinky is going to be facing forward now. Now reverse into extension. Don't allow your shoulders to round. Externally rotate and open up those shoulders as you fight for as much range of motion as you can all the way back to where we started. We're going to do 4 reps. Come in towards your midline and up. Internally rotate as you reach back. Keep fighting for more internal rotation as you come to the side of your legs. And reverse. Extend. Externally rotate as you reach back and up. Externally rotate as you come in towards your midline and out. So once again, we're taking that joint through all of its joint positions, working those outer ranges of motion without compensating in other areas. So we're just isolating that shoulder joint. And reverse. Extend. Externally rotate. Come up into flexion. In towards your midline and out. One last rep. In towards the midline and up. Internally rotate as you reach back. And remember, never work in any kind of range of motion that creates pain. If anything is creating pain, shorten that range of motion and bypass that painful part. Good. A quick example of that is if you're bringing your shoulder up into flexion and you feel pain right here in that posterior side of the shoulder, instead of going all the way up here, you would shorten that range from here and then continue through that second part of the movement. So we bypass painful areas. Now we're going to go into your scapula. So we're going to go side view. You're going to bring both your arms up. What we're going to do is start creating that internal tension, irradiation to about 20 or 30%. I want you to keep those elbows straight the whole time. Now you're going to round the shoulder blades forward into protraction, up into elevation, back into retraction, down into depression. So these are called scapular carves, all right? Forward into protraction, up into elevation, back into retraction, down into depression. So try to create this circular movement slow and controlled, initiating the movement at the scapula without compensating in other areas. We're going to do 5 reps total. After you've done 5, we're going to reverse. You're going to retract, elevate, protract, depress. Retract, elevate, protract, depress. 5 reps, slow and controlled, initiating the scapula. Good. Now we're going to drop down and we're going to do hip carves. So we're going to be in a side-lying position. You're going to create this nice straight body line. Hips are stacked on top of each other. The bottom arm can punch, the top arm can pull. You're going to take a breath in, irradiate tension to about 20 or 30%. We're going to focus on this top leg. Slowly bend the knee and drive the hip up as high as you can go. Come out as wide as you can go, and then internally rotate the hip as you extend back. Bring this hip down and forward. Now reverse. Extend back. Externally rotate as you come out wide, up as high as you can. Back down and straighten out. 4 reps. Slow and controlled. Driving up. Coming out wide. Internally rotate as you kick back. Bring it down, forward, and reverse. Kick back. Externally rotate. Come out wide, up as high as you can. And remember, when you're doing this movement, try not to compensate at that low back by extending or flexing. We're just trying to create the movement at the hip. Keep maintaining that tension and really work those outer ranges of motion of the hip. Constantly fighting for more range in only those pain-free ranges. This is the last one. Rotate, extend, drive down, and reverse. Kick back. Externally rotate as you come out as wide as you can. Up high, back down, and out. Good. Switch sides. Good, straight body line, breath in, irradiate, punch, pull. Slowly bend that knee, driving that hip up into flexion, out into abduction, internally rotate as you kick back, adduct down, and reverse. Extend back, externally rotate as you keep this hip out wide, up as high as you can, back in and out. The whole movement is slow and controlled. Maintain that tension. Keep working your outer ranges of motion. Making sure to minimize compensations happening at the spine. Come out wide, internally rotate as you extend back, bringing that leg down and forward, and reverse, extend back, externally rotate as you come out wide, up as high as you can, back in and out. One more. Make it your best rep yet. Keep maintaining that tension. Very nice. Good. So now we're going to go into something called shoulder swimmers. We're going to do it face down, and I'm going to show you real quick before we get started. So you're going to go head down. Hands are going to be open just like that. So what we're going to do is keeping the elbows nice and straight. You're going to take a breath in, irradiate. We're going to lift up off of the ground. We're going to internally rotate the shoulders, and we're going to drive the arms out wide up as high as you can, coming all the way back. From here, we're going to bend the elbows, bringing the hands towards the low back, but not resting. Straighten out the elbows. Now externally rotate those shoulders as you come out wide, up as high as you can, constantly fighting for more range of motion up high, and then back down. We're going to do 4 reps, slow and controlled, all right? Breath in, irradiate, lift those arms straight up, internally rotate the shoulders, come out wide, up as high as you can. From here, bend those elbows, bring your hands to your low back, but not resting. Straighten back out. Externally rotate those shoulders as you come out wide, up as high as you can, and back down. And again, lift up, internally rotate, come out wide. Good. This is a shoulder-specific movement, so try not to compensate in other areas. Continue to work those outer ranges of motion as you do so. This is our 3rd rep. Lift up, internally rotate, come out wide, up as high as you can. Bend those elbows, hands to your low back. Now straighten out. Externally rotate as you come out wide, up as high as you can. Back down. We got 1 more. Lift up, internally rotate. Come out wide, up as high as you can. Bend the elbows, hands to your low back, then straighten back out. Externally rotate. Come out as wide as you can, all the way back down. Good. Now we're going to go into a hip movement. So we're going to go into something, our base position is called the bear sit. So we're going to be in a seated position with our hips out wide. We're going to have the heel kind of aligned with the knee, maybe even a little bit more in. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to remain nice and tall in this position, just like Chris is doing. Now, if you're in this base and you're having a really hard time sitting comfortably and sitting tall in it, what you can do is you can grab some yoga blocks, you can grab a stack of books or something to prop yourself up, and you can sit on it. So we're going to try to find a base where we can sit into it nice and comfortably, maintaining a nice upright posture. If you're still like this after 1 block, you may need to elevate yourself up a little bit higher. So find a base that's comfortable for yourself. And just like that, our hands are going to be in front. So without placing your hands on your legs yet, keep your arms straight out in front of you. What I want everyone to do is actively try to drive your hips down towards the ground as much as you can. So you're utilizing all these lines of tissue to forcefully drive your legs down. Once you can't go any lower, keep fighting, but slowly place your elbows on the inside of your legs. Now what I want you to do is release the tension you feel in your legs, but hold this position with your arms. From here, what everyone is going to do is gently press your arms down so you're getting into a little bit more range of motion, maybe 5 or 10 degrees more. From here, we're going to hold a passive stretch. Now, typically in my Kinstretch classes, we hold the passive stretch for 2 minutes before going into our pails and rails isometric contractions. For the purpose of this video, it's going to be shorter, so we're only going to hold this stretch for about 30 seconds, all right? Now, as we're just holding here passively, you're holding this position with your arms so your legs don't move. I'm going to go over pails and rails. So pails and rails is essentially isometric loading, and we're giving directional inputs to these isometrics. So we're right here in this position. So on your pails contraction, which is one of 2 types of contractions, what we're going to do is we're going to create full body tension. We're going to keep our arms nice and straight, holding this position strong, and we're going to slowly start driving our knees and our legs into our hands. So this is going to create isometric force on these lines of connective tissue over time, creating a strength adaptation at this end range of motion. This is how we create end range strength. So on your pails contraction, you would take a breath in, irradiate, and slowly start driving your knees into your hands. And you're going to start off slow, and you're going to gradually build up to your greatest and safest effort. For anyone that's new to this, start off low. Maybe it's 30% max. Maybe it's 40%. A lot of my Kinstretch students have worked up to 85 to 95%, but that's a slow progression, so take it easy when you're first doing this. So pails, we slowly build up, driving the legs in towards the hands. On your second contraction, you're going to reverse, and you're going to go into a rails contraction and reverse that motion like you're driving your hips down to the floor like we just did to find this stretch. So we're just going to drive down for about 15 seconds. We're going to place our hands back on and relax. All right? So everyone in this base position, I want you to take a breath in, irradiate full body tension, keep your arms strong. Now slowly start driving your knees into your hands, and I want you to gradually build up tension, greatest and safest effort only, and we're going to hold this for about 20 seconds. So you're constantly driving those knees into your hands, only working up to a tension that you feel comfortable with. 10 seconds, keep fighting. And reverse. Drive those hips down off of your elbows. You can drive your hands out in front as you're constantly driving those hips down into the ground. You're going to feel all kinds of funk in those hips. This is what I call the pain cave. Keep fighting about 5 more seconds. Slowly place your arms back on your legs. And now slowly release all that tension in your body, but maintain this position that you just worked for by holding your arms there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take about 20 to 30 seconds to recover in this base position, and then we're going to do that one more time. So right now we're just in recovery mode. In my classes, I teach belly breathing. Just try to sit in this base, nice deep belly breathing. Try to slow down your heart rate before the next round. All right, we're going to go round 2. Breath in, irradiate full body tension. Hold those arms strong. Start driving your legs in towards your hands. Slowly building up to your greatest and safest effort. Good. Keep fighting. Trying to maintain a nice upright spine. 3 more seconds. And switch. Drive those hips down. Arms come out in front just like that. The whole time we're driving those hips down to the floor. So if some evil bearded man came to try to lift your leg up, they would not move. Keep fighting as you slowly bring your arms back and slowly release all that tension and maintain this position right here. Very nice. For anyone that kind of feels, like once again, talking about pain and impingement, if you do feel anything in that hip, especially in hip flexion, what you could do is you could scoot your hip out slightly in front so your hip's not as high up into hip flexion. All right. So now what we're going to do is something called liftoffs and hinges. So we can place our arms behind. Good. Now I'm going to show everyone at first and then we'll do it together. So in this movement, we have to back out of the range of motion a little bit, and we do so by leaning back. So we're going to find a position where we can physically lift this hip up and then strain this leg out, bringing it all the way down, and then lift up and rotate all the way back in. Now when we're doing this, we're constantly finding our outer ranges of motion. So when we lift off, I want you to think hip flexion coming up high. So lift up high. And then when you straighten out this leg, think about widening out your hip as much as you can as you come down, nice and slow. Then you would lift up, staying out wide, you would rotate all the way back in. What we're going to do is 1 rep on this side, 1 rep on that side, back and forth. We're going to do 6 reps total on both sides. Now, once again, about pain, if you lift up and you're fighting those outer ranges of motion and you're feeling pain, shorten that range of motion. Don't fight your outer ranges. Find a position where you're getting good quality work in, but it's not creating pain. And also, so you know, if you're in this position and you can't physically lift off, you have to scoot your arms back even further. So you would just keep scooting back until you can get into a position where you can lift off. For Krista, we want to find that sweet spot where we're getting high quality work and it's very challenging, but we can do it cleanly. All right? Take a breath in, irradiate, hold your base strong. I want you to lift this hip up, straighten out that leg, slow and controlled come down, lift up, rotate all the way back in. Other side, lift up, hinge, nice and slow come down, lift up, and then rotate all the way back in. 6 reps each side. Lift up, extend, come down, lift up, bend that knee and come back. Lift up, extend, and down, lift up. Good. And as you're going through this, make sure when you're lifting up, the rest of your body does not move whatsoever. We don't want to shift back and forth. We want to find that base where we're steady here and like a statue, and just the hip is creating the movement. Keep working at your own pace, going nice and controlled. Working those outer ranges of motion and only pain-free ranges. Two more each side. Lift up, extend, nice and slow. Lift up, bend that knee, come back. Good. Last one. Lift up, extend, come down, lift up, bend, come back. One more. Very nice. Good. You're definitely gonna feel that. So if you're thinking to yourself, wow, should it be this hard? Yeah, it's probably gonna be this hard, because remember, these lines of tissue that we're working at end ranges of motion are typically very undertrained, so they're very weak. And this is why strength training, those lines of tissue are so important, because we're so weak here and we're susceptible to injury. And we can also improve our movement quality so much by increasing the quality of tissue at these end ranges of motion. Now we're going to come up to a standing position, and we're going to do a scapular movement. So this one we're going to be in a hinge position. So your feet can be about hip width wide, and what we're going to do is we're going to slightly bend the knees and hinge back, kind of like you're doing a deadlift. From here, I want you to create 2 90-degree angles with your arms. And what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the scapula. So we're going to initiate scapular retraction like you're squeezing your shoulder blades in towards each other. And we're going to try to drive our arms up as high as we can as we straighten out the elbows. Good. Then we're going to bend the elbows, finding up as high as you can, coming all the way back. Now what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to maintain that retraction as we hinge back and forth, and we're going to do 8 reps going the whole time. All right? She already got tired. Come on down. All right, nice hinge position. Take a breath in, irradiate. I want you to initiate scapular retraction, squeezing those shoulder blades in towards each other. Hold that tension the whole time. Now straighten out the elbows, going overhead. Now bend and come all the way back. Maintain that tension the whole time. Second rep, come forward, come all the way back. The whole time you're fighting for more range of motion up towards the ceiling while maintaining that scapular retraction. 8 reps, going at your own pace, slow and controlled. Maintain that full body tension. Maintain that scapular retraction. Two more. Last one. Finish strong. Good. And then come all the way up. Now we're going to finish up with one more hip movement. Let's go side lying position. So we're going to do another hip cars, but this time instead of bending the knee, we're going to keep the leg nice and straight. So we're going to do our standard hip cars with a straight leg, all right? Nice straight body line. Give me that irradiation to about 30% tension. Keeping this leg straight, you're going to drive up as high as you can. You don't have to follow exactly what Chris is doing because you may not have as much range of motion. Come out wide. Internally rotate as you extend back. Keep that knee straight as you come all the way back down, meeting the other leg, and reverse. Extend back. Externally rotate as you come out as wide as you can, up as high as you can, back in front of the body, and out. We're just going to do 3 reps total, show you a little mercy. Go nice and controlled, maintain your tension, continue to work your outer ranges of motion, but try not to compensate at your spine going into extension or flexion. Good. One more, nice and controlled. Make it your best rep yet. Only working those pain-free ranges of motion. And reverse, extend, externally rotate as you come out, back in front, and out. Good. Switch sides. Breath in, irradiate, punch, pull. Keeping this leg nice and straight. Come up as high as you can. Out as wide as you can. Internally rotate as you extend back. Good. Then reverse. Extend. Externally rotate. Come out wide, up as high as you can. Back in front of the body and down. 2 more. Maintain that tension. Keep working those outer ranges of motion. Last one. Finish strong. And stop there. Great job. So like I said, this was just a small sample of what a Kinstretch class could look like. Now in my Kinstretch program, I talk about a lot of these concepts and details in my beginner section. It's mostly educational. So by the time that we get into the classes, it's just the movements and you know what to do. In this, we had to kind of break it down and give you some additional cues as you went along. But in the program, like I said, I break it down in full details. What is pails rails? What is cars? How do we talk about pain and work around pain, what to avoid and things like that, compensations, and so many other details that you're not going to exactly get in what I showed you today. So if you're still feeling a little lost, don't worry, there's a lot more context and details that go into this type of work. My program opens up next for signups on April 1st. But for anyone that, if you have any questions about this type of work or if you think it might be appropriate for you, feel free to reach out to me. You can DM me, and we can talk about whatever you may have questions about. All right? I hope you enjoyed this little sample. Peace.